Good evening, this is September 20th, Board of Library Trustees. It is a little after 6 p.m. My name is David Boucher, Chairman of the Board of Trustees.
Amy Paul, trustee.
Larry Bauman, trustee.
Amy Johnson, secretary.
Katie McGonigal, library director.
Okay, so there are no public comments, no one's here, so we'll get to the minutes. I did go over those today. So, very good, very thorough. Nobody has anything? Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes of September 20th?
I'm so moved.
Okay, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All set. Okay, director's report, Katie.
Thank you. I'm going to start with children highlights for the month of August. So there were 18 programs, 1,243 program attendees, 511 participants with the monthly in-house activity, which is like the scavenger hunt, guessing jar, and 321 reference transactions. The Children's Department continues their community outreach with visits to the Farmers Market at Pleasant View Senior Center and communication to the local public schools. The Children's Department had a really thoughtful and inspiring end-of-summer wrap-up meeting to discuss the program from the kickoff to the end-of-summer reading skating party, and they're already planning for next summer. For teen highlights, there was one program and unfortunately no attendance. But the passive programming is going well, so they have activities out for folks to do when they're upstairs in the teen area, like coloring pages and play with board games. For adult highlights, there were 5 programs, 39 program attendees, 117 reference transactions, 280 hours of study room use, and there were 4 requests that went unfulfilled. The last program for the adult summer reading program was a painting and journaling craft to find your voice. Patrons painted a colorful sun and cut out meaningful words and phrases from discarded books and pasted them on the rays of their sun that they made. So if you turn the page, you can see some of the examples of what was created during that program. For technology programming and highlights, there are 3,370 constant contact subscribers. So that's how many folks sign up to get like our newsletter or any updates that we send out through Constant Contact Blast. The technology programming, there were 4 programs and 21 attendees. There was a podcast program on Zoom that had great attendance, and the technology coordinator took down information for the library to consider purchasing podcasting equipment for our Library Things collection. And since I wrote this, I actually bought something for the library for podcasting. So that is en route, it's in delivery, so we're hoping to add that to the collection soon, which is exciting. I had a request from somebody in town to get podcasting equipment, so that was really exciting. So it'll get used. Yeah. For tech services, there were 541 items added and 432 items removed from the collection during the month of August. The Tech Services Department has been working on several projects, many of which were necessary to make the layout changes to the library and the collection, including Library of Things, DVDs, and the teen collection. Tech Services worked closely with the children and teen purchasers to add large print titles to those collections. So we recently, at the beginning of this fiscal year, had a new order placed, so we're getting large print titles in children's and teens. Some of the other items that we have recently added to the collection are kits. We have activity kits for adults and for children, and we're looking to grow those collections because they are already circulating very well, so we're really excited about that. Circulation updates. 15,839 items were circulated during the month of August. This is a decrease of 526 items from July and 150 from the August prior, but I still think 15,839 items coming through our building is really impressive. So the team does a really great job. There were 60 new patron registrations, 195 reference transactions, and our door count was 9,464. The circulation department continues to stay busy with the steady flow of circulating materials. The department has done some reorganization on the first floor to accommodate the shifting collections, and in the back offices to make space for the expanding Library of Things collection. So there's been a lot of movement that's been happening throughout the building in the month of August. As part of the summer reading program, as you can see in this picture right here, the circulation department helped coordinate a donation drive with our community partner, the Gray House. And you can see just some of the items that were collected throughout the summer as our community partner for the summer reading program. So that was really wonderful that we were able to be able to provide so much and have that community connection. Any questions? Nope, okay. For professional development, staff have the opportunity to and are encouraged to attend professional development trainings based on the availability and needs of their department. These training sessions help us better serve the community. And here are some of the topics from the past month that staff attended. There was an Ingram iPage overview that was actually led by one of our staff members, so several of us attended this overview. It was really helpful instruction. Ingram is one of our vendors that we use to purchase a lot of our materials. So it was really nice for all of us to just kind of get an update and some training on that. Another training was generational differences in the workplace, First Amendment audits, and diversity in the workplace. Building updates. We can go on a tour after this if you guys would like, because there has been a lot of changes since you were probably here last. During the month of August, we made many changes to meet the needs of the community and to accommodate the collection. Some of the shifted collections include DVDs, new adult large print, new adult nonfiction, adult graphic novel, adult audiobook on CD, adult CDs, teen graphic novel, teen new fiction, teen anime, college and career readiness, the Library of Things puzzles, the Library of Things board games, the Library of Things outdoor games, children audiobooks on CD, children new picture books, children's CDs, and the Friends of the East Long Meadow Public Library sale bookshelves. So all of those collections moved during the month of August. And so we did a lot of signage, and we have that kind of board when you first walk in. If you need any assistance after we've done our rearranging, please let us know. We posted on our social media sites to let folks know. But we think that a lot of these changes are going to open up our spaces, collections, and allow for better flow in the library. So I included some pictures so you can kind of see the layout changes. The policy review for the evening is the program policy based on last month's suggested edits, and then we'll look at the social media policy. And then also just want to let you all know that the ARIS report for the Mass Board of Library Commissioners was submitted on September 7th, August 7th.
Okay, yeah, right.
August
yeah,
7th.
August 7th, yeah.
And so that was all set. David came in and reviewed that, and then that was submitted to the state.
Yeah.
So that's all set. The next major report that's due is the financial report, and David and I will sign off on that hopefully next week.
Yeah.
And that has already been reviewed by the Director of Finance for the town, and it's now under review by the town manager. So for upcoming policy review, I am tabling the display and exhibit policy because those are going to connect to the meeting room policy, which I'm still waiting to get back. So I'm gonna table that until a future date, which is why I grabbed the social media policy and did that one this month, so we could get to that. For strategic planning, I am working with Christy Chadwick to work on contacting consultants. And I've already reviewed that with the town manager and the finance director. And then on September 28th, next week, the library is going to have a delayed opening to the public because we're going to have a staff training in the morning. And Christy Chadwick is coming in for that training, and she's going to do a SOAR with the staff, which is part of our strategic planning process. Okay. That's what I have. And just a reminder that our next meeting is Tuesday, October 17th.
Okay, so the next one, old business, we don't really have any, so we're gonna go to program policy.
Okay, so you have an updated program policy in your packet.
Yep.
Oh, that should be on the next page. Okay,
So we reviewed this last week. right? And
Yes.
this has the
Yes.
changes.
Yeah,
would you like me to read it?
the what?
Would you like me to read it?
No, this is the one we made the changes with, right?
Correct. But would you like me to read through it now that the changes have been added?
Yeah, sure.
Purpose, the East Long Meadow Public, this is the program policy. Purpose, the East Long Meadow Public Library offers programs to further extend the library's mission and strategic plan to help educate and enrich the community in response to the intellectual, educational, and cultural needs and input of its patrons. The Board of Library Trustees, the Library Director, and library staff recognize the responsibility of the East Long Meadow Public Library to provide programs and materials that support diverse points of view on different topics. The program policy is intended to provide guidance for the development and presentation of programs which anticipate and meet the needs of our patrons. The American Library Association's Library Bill of Rights, the Freedom to Read Statement, the Freedom to View Statement, and the First Amendment and censorship have been endorsed by the East Long Meadow Board of Library Trustees and are an integral part of this policy. See Appendix A. Responsibility for programming. The ultimate responsibility for programming, as with all library activities, rests with the library director, who operates within the framework of policies determined by the East Long Meadow Board of Library Trustees. The library director delegates program management responsibility to other members of the staff within the areas of service to children, adolescents, and adults. Program definition. Library programs are a live or recorded activity or event in a group setting, developed or selected to offer opportunities for community connection, cultural enrichment, exchange of information, lifelong learning, and literacy support for an intended audience in the community. Program development. The process of program development and presentation involves the experience and knowledge of those staff members so designated by the library director. In making programming decisions, staff members use their familiarity with the community, library resources, other programs and events, the existing collection, and budget. Staff consider the suitability of the program's materials, format, presenter, and relevancy when determining the intended audience. Programs with an intended audience are publicized as such. The library draws upon community resources in developing programs and attempts to partner with other community organizations, educational and cultural institutions, or individuals to develop and present or co-sponsor programs. Library selection of a program does not constitute or imply an endorsement of its content or the views expressed by the participants, by the library, library staff, or the town of East Long Meadow. Program topics, speakers, and resources are not excluded from programs because of possible controversy. Programs are not primarily for commercial purposes. However, presenters may leave their business card or brochure for program participants to pick up if they are interested in contacting the speaker after the program. While presenters may not distribute such materials as part of the program, performers or authors may sell books, CDs, or other items as part of a library program when approved in advance by the library director. Programs sponsored by the Friends of East Long Meadow Public Library may include the sale of merchandise as a fundraiser to benefit the library. Library programs may take place at the library, online, or at off-site locations. Program selection criteria. The library director and staff use the following criteria in making decisions about program topics, speakers, and accompanying resources. availability of resources such as space, staff time, and/or budget, community needs and interests, perceived or requested, national and local observances, commemorative months and initiatives, potential to promote, supplement, and encourage use of the library's collections and resources, presenter qualifications, experience and content area, safety and security of patrons and staff, relevance to the library's mission and strategic plan, timing, length of the program. A program need not meet all of these criteria to be presented. Access to programming. Library programs are open to the public and free of charge. Responsibility for a child's access to library programs rests solely with their parent or guardian. As stated in Free Access to Libraries for Minors, an interpretation of the Library Bill of Rights, quote, libraries and their governing bodies cannot assume the role of parents or the functions of parental authority in the private relationship between parent and child. Libraries and their governing bodies shall ensure that only parents and guardians have the right and responsibility to determine their children's, and only their children's, access to library resources. Parents and guardians who do not want their children to have access to specific library services, materials, or facilities should so advise their own children. See Appendix B. The library will make every attempt to accommodate all patrons who wish to attend a program. However, when available resources or safety requires it, attendance may be limited. The library will not limit attendance due to topic. When limits are established, attendance will be determined by advance registration through the library's online calendar of events at eastlongmeadowlibrary.org or at the door on a first-come, first-served basis. A wait list may be available for some programs. The staff member responsible for the program has sole discretion if the program has a wait list and how many spots are available. If a spot becomes available either before or on the day of the program, patrons on the wait list will be notified and offered the available spot based on their place on the wait list. The library reserves the right to deny attendance or request a patron to leave a program if they are disruptive to other patrons or the program facilitator. See Appendix C. This policy refers to programs selected by the East Longmeadow Public Library, not programs held at the library by a community member or group in a meeting room. The program policy is subject to review and amendment by the Board of Library Trustees. And this was reviewed and we got to change that date to September 2023. And the appendix should be on the next page. I have to change the space a little bit. Amy.
Okay,
I got nothing.
I
I'm
think
good.
it's good.
We spent a lot of time on this.
We did. We did. And I think it came out great.
Yeah, it's good.
Very good.
Okay.
Would someone like to make a motion
Thank you.
to approve
I was like,
the,
no, she's got one thing.
she's got one thing?
Sorry, no.
I'm gonna make a
it's
couple
very minor.
formatting changes
Okay.
when I actually go to do this, because I downloaded it.
This is new, right?
What?
This is a new program policy.
This is what we looked at last
Right.
month.
I know, but
Edits, yes, it's new.
we're not gonna
Oh,
call it reviewed, we're gonna
But it's-
call it approved.
Approved. Right.
Approved, you're right.
Yeah,
I think I
right.
put reviewed because last month we were looking at it, so we're gonna say
Right.
approved.
Right,
Thank you.
And then September.
Yes. Thank you. Great catch.
I mean, once we vote.
Right, oh, right,
If it
right,
goes through.
yeah, yeah, if you pass it, yeah, you got it.
okay.
I wouldn't have felt like this was complete unless you had something.
You're welcome.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve the program policy?
I so move.
Okay, second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So that's approved. Okay. So, that's good.
Okay. So the next one up, okay, sorry.
Oh, no, the next, yeah, social media
I
policy.
was so excited to get it.
No, that's all
Sorry.
right, that's all right.
Okay. So the next policy is social media policy.
Right.
I'll read it how it is, and Larry's got some suggestions.
Okay,
Larry,
Do you want someone else to read? Is your voice tired?
that would be fabulous.
Would you like me to do that?
Take it on, Amy.
Okay.
Thank you.
That way I can make very close read. Okay. Purpose. The East Long Meadow Public Library extends the library's mission and strategic plan to help provide free and equal access to information, resources, and technology through its social media presence. Social media will be used to encourage interactions between the East Long Meadow Public Library, its active users, and the larger online and self-selected community to both increase the number of library users as well as improve the quality of their library experience. This policy establishes guidelines for the creation and use of the East Long Meadow Public Library's social media sites. Social media software is defined as any web application, site, or account created and maintained by the East Long Meadow Public Library, which facilitates an environment for the library staff and library users to share information and opinions about library-related subjects or issues in a truly interactive way. For purposes of this policy, social media is content created by individuals using accessible, expandable, and upgradable publishing technologies through and on the internet. For purposes of this policy, content includes comments, information, articles, pictures, videos, or any other form of communicative content posted on the East Long Meadow Public Library's social media sites. This policy applies to all patrons, whether or not registered with the East Long Meadow Public Library. Policy. Library staff will post information about library programs, services, collections, outreach, etc. to keep library patrons better informed on library happenings. Social media also permits patrons the opportunity to provide solicited or unsolicited feedback to library staff and other patrons. Comments, posts, and messages are welcome on the East Long Meadow Public Library social media sites. A user interacting with the library's social media sites consents to and agrees to comply with all of East Long Meadow Public Library's policies. Library staff will periodically evaluate the role and utility of its online social networking sites, which may be terminated at any time without notice to subscribers. The East Long Meadow Public Library reserves the right to monitor content before it is posted on all of its social media sites and to modify, restrict, or remove any content that is deemed in violation of this social media policy or any applicable laws, rules, and regulations. The East Long Meadow Public Library also reserves the right to edit or modify any submissions in response to requests for feedback or other commentary. Content perceived as containing any of the following, but not limited to, inappropriate forms of content shall not be permitted on the East Long Meadow Public Library's social media sites and is subject to removal and/or restriction by site administrators, the library director, or their designees. Profane, obscene, violent, or pornographic content and/or language, content that promotes, fosters, or perpetuates discrimination on the basis of race, color, national origin, sex, gender, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, genetic information, religion, age, family status, military status, or source of income. Personal attacks, insults, or threatening language, potentially libelous statements, plagiarized materials, private personal information published without consent, comments totally unrelated to the content of the forum, hyperlinks to material that is not directly related to the discussion, commercial promotions or spam, content in support of or opposition to any political campaigns or ballot measures, conduct in violation of any state, federal, or local law, rule, or regulation, encouragement of illegal activity, information that may tend to compromise the safety or security of the public or public systems, any other content deemed inappropriate by the East Long Meadow Public Library. The East Long Meadow Public Library reserves the right to deny access to East Long Meadow Public Library's social media sites to any person who violates the East Long Meadow Public Library's social media policy at any time and without prior notice. By posting content, the user agrees to indemnify the East Long Meadow Public Library and its officers and employees from and against all liabilities, judgments, damages, and costs incurred, including attorney's fees, which arise out of or are related to the posted content. User responsibility. As with more traditional resources, the library does not act in place of or in the absence of a parent and is not responsible for enforcing any restrictions which a parent or guardian may place on a minor's use of the resource. Responsibility for a child's reading, listening, or viewing material rests solely with their parent or guardian. As stated in Free Access to Libraries for Minors, an interpretation of the Library Bill of Rights, libraries and their governing bodies cannot assume the role of parents or the functions of parental authority in the private relationship between parent and child. Libraries and their governing bodies shall ensure that only parents and guardians have the right and the responsibility to determine their children's and only their children's access to library resources. Parents and guardians who do not want their children to have access to specific library services, materials, or facilities should so advise their own children. See Appendix A. There is no expectation of privacy in postings on library-sponsored social media sites. Users of all ages have a responsibility to protect their privacy and should not post personal identifying information such as last name, age, phone number, or address. By posting on the library's social media sites, users give the library permission to utilize a user's name, profile picture, and content of any posting made without compensation or liability on the part of the library. If any user does not agree to these terms, they should not use the service.
Hi, are you here for the library board meeting?
No, I was looking for the
The
other.
plant guy is next door.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Disclaimer: social media sites are for discussion purposes only. Any views expressed on this site are
Great.
those of the individual author only. Third-party content found on this site does not represent the official views of the East Longmeadow Public Library. The East Longmeadow Public Library accepts no liability for the content of this site. The social media policy is subject to review and amendment by the Board of Library Trustees.
Okay. In reviewing this, I sort of made some suggested changes, just really to the first page. I mean, I have just very tiny little things after that. So I
Okay.
made some Katie made some photocopies, because I thought it might be easier than saying, the line, one paragraph over is moved to the front, and this, it would just get very
So
confusing.
this is your proposed.
So that's my
Okay.
proposed first page. And I'll go through it and kind of explain why it is that I did what I did. So to begin with, under purpose, it seemed a little bit like the lead was buried, because the purpose is sort of a variation of the start of the second paragraph. So I just sort of took some of that language and moved it to the top and said the purpose of this policy is to establish guidelines for creating and using East Longmeadow Public Library's social media sites, and then, I incorporated the language, designed to extend the library's mission and strategic plan to help provide free and equal access to information, resources, and technology through its social media presence. And then I just left the next sentence where it was. Social media will be used to encourage interactions, all the way to the end, to the word experience, okay? So then, the second paragraph is basically the start of the second paragraph is the second paragraph that you had, just starting with the second sentence, right? So, social media. Now, keep in mind, and I also photocopied some definitions here on that second page. It's a little awkward to say social media software, because I think social media is the use in common parlance through dictionaries and what have you. So I just deleted
Took
the
that
word
word out.
software. Right. is defined as any web application. I pretty much left all that language the same. Site or account created and maintained by the East Long Meadow Public Library, which facilitates an environment for library staff and library users to share information and opinions about library-related subjects or issues in a truly interactive way. Now, the next sentence, I changed somewhat just because the word social media does not mean content in the dictionary or in common parlance. So, right, I mean, so in a sense, so I just deleted it and just said, for the purposes of this policy, content is defined as any material created by individuals. And then I just threw this in, and think about this, created by individuals or software, because now people are using AI to create content. Using accessible, expandable, and upgradable publishing technologies through and on the internet. And I mean, that is pretty much just the way it was written. And then I continue, and I just kept the same sort of sentence for the last sentence. For purposes of this policy, content includes, and then just as you had it. And then I just left the next sentence. And then when it comes to policy, as I read it, it was as if it was kind of talked around but not just sort of spelled out. I mean, as I'm reading it, I'm thinking to myself, well, what is the policy? So I kind of just expressed it.
I'm going to just interrupt you real quick before we get to that piece, because this last sentence here is one that probably needs to be addressed also.
Okay.
This policy applies to all patrons, whether or not registered with the East Long Meadow Public Library. I want to think about that one a little bit, because
I don't think we need the sentence at all.
I don't either. Or it's just the policy applies to all,
Users.
All
of
users.
social
All
media.
users.
Of East
but I
Long
think
Meadow
that's redundant, because I think we
social
have it,
media. Or does it say
later
further
on.
Oh, okay.
so I almost think we should probably take that line out.
Okay,
Thoughts?
sure.
Take it out.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt, but
No,
I
no,
was like,
no.
I didn't want to jump
No.
to the next part without.
No, that's
Oh,
fine.
and if we're jumping around, can we go back to content, the definition of content?
Please.
Sure.
I don't understand this sentence. I need help.
So these definitions, this was what is in our current policy, so I left that there. So we can change this.
Just for informational purposes, I threw in the Webster's and Oxford Dictionary definition of content.
So how it's created, so I don't have a problem with the first part. So for purposes of this policy, content is defined as any material created by individuals or software. I don't care how they created it, what they used to create it.
So take that whole thing out and just
I
say,
think it should
content includes comments, information, articles, pictures, what have you.
Maybe we can combine
do
them.
that.
So content is defined as any material created by individuals or software, including comments, information, articles, pictures, videos, or any other form of communicative content. So kind of delete the middle part.
Sure.
Because whatever they use to create a software kind of, well, anyway, I think we just don't need this whole part. So it looks like.
Right. I mean, and I think you're right. You could also just delete who's creating it. It isn't,
Yeah, I do think
really
your point of
necessary.
AI though is important because we don't,
yeah.
software can like just post things without a human even being involved.
Oh,
So
whatever. Yeah.
might as well leave it in. You never
Okay.
know what's gonna come next.
Okay. Okay, so then, again, feel free to tweak or adjust or edit or totally ignore what I'm suggesting here, but I just thought that,
So cross that out and put including to make it one sentence. Sorry.
no, that's okay.
Just a grammatical thing over here.
Okay. I just thought that it would be helpful as a lead to just basically sort of state in essence what you want, how you want the policy to read. So I kind of read this thing and then I kind of made up what I wrote here. It's the policy of East Long Meadow Library to use social media to develop and post content, engage library patrons and the public at large to respond to that content, and provide the public with a regulated forum for civil and legal discourse.
I'm gonna take that part out.
Okay. Well, I only
The last.
put that in because that references the next page, right? Because you're regulating it. I mean, you're saying, I'm going to delete or refuse to accommodate anyone that does any one of these things.
Right, but I guess I'm stuck on the word forum, I guess, because it's
Oh.
not going to be a back and forth. If that,
Oh, I see.
do you see what I'm
Right,
saying?
right,
Like,
right.
we're not necessarily trying to,
Make a conversation out of it.
correct.
I see, okay. No, you're right, okay,
So that's my thought on that one.
okay. Well, so you.
But yes,
you
this is
have
all
the-
very helpful.
The option of either
Yeah.
deleting it totally or coming up with some sort of substitute for the word forum that would indicate
Okay.
a platform maybe? Instead of a forum? I don't know, something that wouldn't denote necessarily a back and forth. Or, like I say, just delete it entirely, that's,
So in relation, I get what you're saying about, we're regulating the content by saying that it has to meet these.
right.
But I think that my interpretation of that is if we're receiving feedback or asking for feedback, people will respond in a way that doesn't include any of this
Correct,
stuff, right?
correct.
So we're not necessarily asking for a discussion, right? And I'm not sure we need this
Okay,
if, we're also not really providing the platform. The platform is the social media site and we're just posting to it, right?
oh. Oh, it's not like
This is for
East
like,
Long Meadow?
this is like our Facebook page or our
Oh, I
Instagram
see,
page.
I see.
So if we're
Okay.
posting, we
Gotcha.
typically are putting up our flyers about what programs are coming up,
Right,
or don't forget to register for our summer reading program, or come see us at this community outreach event we're going to. So it's, or like some of the pictures that I put in the director's report, like those, like we're sharing out, oh, we made some changes to our space, come see,
Right.
more things like that,
right.
as opposed to,
And I think to avoid this kind of confusion, which I was also thinking, was we may want to provide some examples of the names of the platforms that we use.
I specifically took those out because what had been in there previously, either we don't use or they don't exist anymore. Or they're a data technology. So I was avoiding that if a year or 2 or 3 from now, when we go to re-update this policy, that,
If X becomes Z or
I'm
something.
trying to weigh the.
right,
Whether it would be more clear to say we currently use these. I hate adding specific brands, but will it cause confusion if people don't really know what we're talking about? Doesn't matter. It's fine, leave it out. People know what social media is, right?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
That's why it's so hard to define.
it is.
So then I just continued with basically the the language here where I just simply added a preface. So in the course of exercising this policy, East Long Meadow Library, and then, permits patrons the opportunity to provide solicited or unsolicited feedback to library staff and other patrons. Comments, posts, and messages are welcome. That's the same. A user interacting with the library's social media sites consents to and agrees to comply with all the policies.
Should we take out that word sites? A user interacting with the library's social media consents to and agrees to comply?
yeah,
Should we
you
take
could
out
do
that
that.
sites? Is it just
Sure.
extra?
And that's
Very helpful.
what I did.
Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome.
It's nice to have extra review and feedback. It's very helpful. Thanks, Larry.
I
else
actually,
you got?
though, now that I'm looking at this, I'm wondering, that last sentence, a user interacting with the library's social media consents to and agrees to comply. Is there a, like in many things that you pull up on the internet, there's a kind of little window that pops up that says, if you continue, you are agreeing to the following. And then maybe this whole thing would like pop up.
I don't know if we
And-
can,
And then you have to click agree to go further.
I don't know if we have that capability on,
Oh.
like, Facebook. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like, I don't know if
right.
we could,
I don't know.
I can ask
Right.
Melanie, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, each of the social media platforms, if you will, has their own terms and agreements that as
right,
the user, that's their responsibility,
right.
right?
So how is it that you'll communicate this to somebody if you're saying that they consent to and agree to comply with the policy?
So our website is linked to our social media sites, so it'd be the user's responsibility to then go back to our policies. This is common verbiage in like social media policies for libraries.
Okay. But, so if I use the social media site without going to the website, there'll be some prompt to say, to go back to the website to see the policies?
If they need to go back and see it, again, they're not necessarily reading this whole thing
Right,
before they go to our page, but at least this is here, and if they have questions or they want to go look at it, or if there is any discussion that needs to be had, we have this policy that we can discuss.
okay,
Does that make sense?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think I get what you're saying, but I can't quite get it. Essentially, how can they consent to a policy that they don't have access to when they're using the thing? Is that what you're getting at?
that's what that was my inclined thought.
So we're saying that they consent to,
And agree to
agree to
comply with
comply.
all of the policies, which includes this one.
but
But if they are not aware
how would they know about the policy if they're just going to the
To
Facebook
Facebook.
page?
that they find it on Facebook?
That is a great question, but that is on the user to know what the terms and conditions are, right? If they're going to a site, like that's, I think, would be on them.
For a Facebook site, to use Facebook.
But if they're going to like a business page,
I'm not saying we shouldn't have a policy, I'm saying that I don't know if this line is defensible. Is that, you're an attorney,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Is defensible the right word? Okay, great. Sometimes I wish I was an attorney.
so what's, I'm gonna just look at our page to see what we have. Hold on one second. let me find out if I can link or add this link, because the policy goes onto the website, right? And then there's a URL for this page on our website.
Right.
So I can see if I can add it
To
to
the
like the,
Facebook page.
to like our content, like our contact information or about us.
Right.
And if I can do that, then it's there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I just don't know. I know this is standard and I don't want to keep us all day, but
No, but like this is why
I
we're.
don't know if we need it because, so what do we use this policy for? This policy is for backup in case we need to delete someone's post and they say, what the heck?
It's
You
you're
deleted
violating my
post.
First Amendment.
You're violating my rights.
Correct.
So do we need this sentence or is the rest of it enough?
Or is this, if any user does not agree to these terms, they should not use the service?
Right, so does this need to be here? Or, because I could imagine it being difficult. I guess it depends on what point of view you take, right? So we're not gonna do anything to the person if they don't follow this policy. All we're gonna do is delete their post. And this is for us to say, we deleted your post because you violated this policy.
But sort of playing the role of the person, it's like if I don't know about the policy and I'm not given any prominent opportunity to find out, then how can I be held to it?
Well, that's a whole nother
Right.
problem. I mean, getting rid of the sentence doesn't help with that, does it?
No, but like you said, putting some sort of notice on the Facebook page. I mean, I think I've pulled up websites where at the bottom there's that language, you know, that you know, users consent to. And now that I think of it, there's a multitude of times when I get on a website and a like floating bar comes up and says, you know, if to read further, you're consenting to our cookies and our this and our that. And you have to click, I accept, or you're not able to continue.
And that works if you own the site.
Right.
Right.
But we don't
here you-
own any
right.
of these sites. The only thing we can do on these sites as administrators is take down content.
Right,
Right.
okay.
Then again, I don't know. I'm just here to cause problems. But I do like the idea of
So,
having it like in the header of
Stores
the
library.
Facebook.
A user participating in the library social media service consents to and agrees to comply with all stores library policies. Berkshire Athenaeum. Where is it? Participation in the Berkshire Athenaeum social network services implies agreement with all library policies, including its computer services policies and social networking policy, and the terms of service of each individual third-party service. If the user does not agree with these terms, they are not to use the services provided.
But that's a website, right?
No,
No,
it's
that's
for
not.
social media.
Oh, okay.
Katie, did you happen to ask Ryan about any of this?
I didn't, I went to Melanie. Melanie, I went through this. But I looked at, because I looked,
I know on the town website,
there's the town, but this is more specifically for staff.
no, but on the town Facebook page, there, the town is, because we broadcast meetings on the town's Facebook page.
Yes,
We would monitor those comments.
yes,
So the town asserts the right to remove comments posted on the Facebook page.
yes.
I don't
So,
know how it does that, but that's basically the same thing.
right, that's what this policy is also doing.
Correct, but I don't know how they get around Larry's issue. You see?
It's the same thing,
Because it's the same thing,
right.
but they either don't address it or find a way around it.
Interesting.
So it could be in the town's policy,
I just,
which may or may not be. I haven't looked, so I don't know if it's linked like that.
Well,
All right, let's think on this line,
Homework.
and we'll come back to it. Because we don't have to we're gonna make some changes, right? We make some changes, so we don't have to pass this tonight. So I can follow up with Ryan also.
And then I also had a suggestion on the next two lines, where it says, library staff will periodically evaluate the role and utility of its online social networking sites. Do we need the word networking?
No?
No?
We
I
can
mean,
change it
because
to media.
we kind of, yeah, I mean, it's a new word, and then I felt that, well, then you have to say define what networking is, yeah. And then I just wondered, which may be terminated at any time without notice to subscribers.
Or users,
Maybe
users?
that's a broader term, right? Because otherwise, you're confining yourself to somebody that's quote-unquote subscribed as
Sure.
opposed to just used. I don't mean to dominate this discussion. I didn't have anything other than in the list of things, in the bullet points. I'm wondering whether the one that says comments totally unrelated to the content of the forum, maybe I would think to delete the word totally, because then there's kind of, somebody's going to say an argument, well, it's not totally unrelated, it's marginally unrelated, therefore it should be included.
Totally.
And then the same with the next line where it says hyperlinks to materials that are not directly related. Well, what if it's indirectly related? So just say related, right?
Question also, we talk about,
Where are you on this?
so at the end of the first page, we have, reserves the right to ... to modify, restrict, or remove any content that's deemed in violation of this policy. And then we talk again about specific things that, I'm just wondering if it's duplicative. We talk about, we can delete things, and then we talk about, we can delete things again in the next paragraph. So what I would suggest is, we would say something to the effect of content perceived as containing any of the following, but not limited to inappropriate forms of content shall be considered in violation of this policy, and then remove the rest of it. And we don't really care who's deleting it, I don't think. Like, as far as it being the library
I
director.
think that has to go in somewhere. Let me see. Because I think that's the only place where it says,
If
no,
we're
it's okay,
saying.
never mind, nope, it's
Oh.
fine.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just reading through some other, reading back for a minute, thank you.
I also had a question under disclaimer on page 3. It says social media sites are for discussion purposes only. Didn't you say above that it's also informational? I mean,
Yeah, what does that mean, it's for discussion purposes only?
I don't, and that kind
Is
of
this more like
harkens back to.
non-soliciting? Sorry.
I don't know, well, that kind of harkened back to what you said earlier, when you didn't want to, you like, an objection to the word forum, because you didn't want to denote a back and forth.
Correct.
The word discussion kind of has a similar connotation, that you're engaging in a conversation.
All right, so take that line out. I want to brainstorm for a second.
I don't understand the disclaimer. Go ahead.
I think it's, the disclaimer is if a user posts something, not one of us, if somebody else posts something,
Right.
and there's some lag between when a staff member sees it and can address it, that's that poster's viewpoint, that's their comment, that's not necessarily East Long Meadow
Right.
Public Library's comment. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or if there's something that's said or done on the platform itself, that's not necessarily posted by the East Long Meadow Public Library. Does that make sense?
So only content posted by the official East Long Meadow Public Library account is the responsibility of the East Long Meadow Public Library. Any other posts, whether on our site, tagging us, are not.
However, the last sentence contradicts that. The East Long Meadow Public Library accepts no liability for the content of this site. Well, that's very general. That
That's
includes
Posted by
what
others,
you're,
maybe.
yeah.
Right.
You have to kind of,
I think that that's just then not. I think that's broad. That is broad intentionally,
yeah.
right? Of the hosting site?
You're not hosting it.
No, of the,
It's the social media
right.
of the, so I think that's what I'm struggling with, is we suddenly start using the term site, and we talk about this site in the disclaimer, and we hadn't been talking about sites in the rest of the
Right.
policy.
All right, let me go back. I'm gonna meet with Melanie again, and we're gonna take a look at this one again. She and I can brainstorm this piece.
I think it could be one sentence. I think it could be the middle sentence, or maybe the top, the first one in the middle sentence.
And because you're using more than one platform, I mean, if you are, then maybe you should sort of get rid of the word site and just say social media. Third-party content found on the library's social media does not represent the official views.
Yes.
And then you could even add, and East Long Meadow Public Library accepts no liability for such content.
Can you say that again?
I like it.
Well, right here, just third-party content found on EL Library's social media does not represent the official views of, and then you, I guess to shorten it, I mean, because you've already said EL, you just say library, capital L, right? And the library accepts no liability for such content, or that content, or said content,
I
depending.
like such, that was your
Such
first one.
content.
That sounds very official.
Okay, all right.
Sounds like a disclaimer.
That's what it is.
Take
And
it.
that you may want to put on the Facebook page, so that people understand, that pull up the Facebook page, that you are calling out at the outset, the fact that, I mean, you realize people are going to be expressing their own positions and opinions, but you are not having any, you're not endorsing any of this.
Correct.
Yeah.
Say it.
No, I was gonna just ask a question I can ask later.
Okay. Okay, so I am going to rework this. Thank you
Okay.
all for your input, and I'll bring it next month.
Okay.
And I saw you caught utilize while I was reading. On page 3, you're missing an I. I saw you write. Maybe you were writing
No, because I
something
have
else.
extra spaces
This
for some
one.
reason.
Oh, this one.
Surprised spell check didn't catch that.
Who needs spell check? You have me.
That's very good.
Okay, so you
Okay.
update that one, that's a, okay,
Right?
yeah.
There's a lot of policies and a
That's a
lot
lot
of
of
policies
stuff.
to update.
Okay.
But we're like halfway through, maybe
Wow.
more than halfway through.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
We're only halfway through.
We're a lot of policies.
Oh, jeez. Oh, well.
Uh-huh.
When's
all
my
right.
term up? Just kidding.
No
just
way.
kidding. Joke.
No.
So next, Friends of the Library. I did not go to that. I could not make that.
I was
Did
there.
you go?
It was great.
Did you go?
Yes, yes. It was very nice. It was a nice meeting. They kind of recapped what happened at the end of last year, talked about what they were looking forward to this year. Diane wrote it up, so if somebody wants to read Diane's report. But it was a really nice meeting, very well attended. We did a very
Right.
nice tour at the end to thank them for all of their support and contributions. And if you have not seen our new team furniture yet, that the Friends very generously,
I did
Is
not
it
see
here?
it.
it's beautiful. It is upstairs.
wow.
It is really, really nice. It really kind of
Okay.
really revitalized that
Better
space.
finish on time so
So
we have time to look.
we did a tour at the end of the meeting on last Monday. But would somebody like to read it?
I will read it. Report to the Library Trustees, September 2023. The Friends held its most recent meeting on Monday, September 11th, 2023, at 6:30 p.m. in the library's community room. After approving the minutes of June's meeting and the treasurer's reports, the library director, Kate McGonigal, and adult services librarian, Maura Mera, invited the members of the board to accompany them on a tour of the library after our meeting adjourned. They were excited to lead us on an expedition of the building and point out the improvements that were made during the summer months. Certainly, we were interested in learning about the rearrangement of bookcases, the easier access to materials, and ideas for the future. However, I think our main focus that evening was to see the new colorful, easy-to-maintain furniture in the teen area. I was impressed and am proud that the Friends played a role to make another wish come true. Members were provided a split-year calendar that conveyed the months and dates of our meetings. The calendar is on our website if anyone is interested. With the calendar in hand, our basket raffles subcommittee discussed possible dates for the fall and winter fundraisers. It was determined that the fall baskets will be displayed from Friday, September 29th, and the drawing will be held on Thursday, October 26th. The estimated date to set up the winter baskets is Monday, November 27th, with the drawing taking place on Wednesday, December 20th. The dates for our spring extravaganza baskets will be determined at a meeting early next year. In my last report, I stated that the number of members had decreased. To be specific, it has dwindled by approximately 100 members, which I believe was due in part to COVID-19. As of this month's meeting, the number of members remained the same as that of June. Although that was encouraging, the goal is to increase our membership to the point it once was, to the point it once was prior to the pandemic, if not more. A discussion began as to how we could encourage additional people to join. It was determined that the first step to be taken is that the Friends must become more visible in the community. Due to the number of people who attend public events such as the Summer Reading Kickoff, National Night Out, and Celebrate East Long Meadow, representatives of the Friends need to use these occasions to get out and meet potential members. By doing so, our representative can answer questions such as, how are the funds from membership dues dispersed? Why does the library need the Friends' financial support? Why is it important for the Friends to advocate for the library? Hopefully, by taking the time to introduce the purpose of our nonprofit organization, live and in person, some individuals just might decide to join. Our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, October 2nd, 2023. Respectfully submitted, Diane A. Tiago, President.
I will not be at that October.
Okay. I will be there. Okay, I guess that's it. So our next meeting is Tuesday, the 17th at 6 PM in October. And would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in
So
favor?
moved, is that right? Am I-
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.